Hi everyone, Rav Neria, father of the knitted kippah generation, looking for the Chanukiah in the evacuee community of Nitzan, and a look at a Chanukiah collection. Let's get started. Shalom and welcome to Israeli Salad. Although there is no Jewish law regarding the style of the kippah on the heads of Jewish males, throughout the generations, different styles have been affiliated with different groups in the religious society. The black kippot are mostly seen in the ultra-Orthodox communities, while the knitted kippot, like the one on my head, are seen in the religious Zionist communities. Anyhow, the term the knitted kippah generation refers to those who decided to combine spiritual and material by being involved in the Torah and Jewish precepts, while also being involved in the material aspects of the world. One of the leading rabbinical figures of the religious Zionist movement was Rabbi Moshe Tzvi Neria. On Tuesday, December 20th, the 10th anniversary to the passing of Rav Neria, I visited Kfar Ro'eh, where Rav Neria lived and taught.
Israel, the holy nation, wake up to worship your Lord. That is how Rav Moshe Tzvi Neria would wake up his beloved students each morning at the Kfar Ro'eh Yeshiva. The involvement of the head of the Yeshiva, the Rosh Yeshiva, in the morning awakening expresses the special attitude of the Rav that was so part of the man who is known as father of the knitted kippah generation. On the 10th anniversary to his passing, I met his wife and daughter in Kfar Ro'eh.
This is the room that we call Father's Room, not a work room, rather the Father's Room. This was his private shrine. Here he sat, learned, wrote, answered letters. Here was his bed. And above you can see the pictures, Grandfather Petachia, Rav Charlap, and Rav Kook.
Rav Neria was born in Lodz, Poland. At the age of 17, he contacted Rav Kook, who was in Israel helping yeshiva students immigrate to the Holy Land. After a short while, he received a permit and immigrated to Israel. Rav Neria joined the Merkaz Harav Yeshiva and very quickly became an outstanding of Rav Kook.
Father was a Rav who was also a student. For all his life, he remained the ultimate student to his Rav, a Rav Kook. As children, we grew up hearing about one Rav, the Rav. When I was a little girl, I thought there was only one Rav in the world, Rav Kook. All my father's students learned of Rav Kook's teachings from Rav Neria.
Throughout the years, Rav Neria became involved in the Bnei Akiva youth group. He felt that he must help the youth deal with the dilemmas and difficulties that they encountered in those years and bring them closer to religious values and ideas.
He understood that they must be educated with deep-rooted Jewish ideals, and so he promoted holding Torah lessons in Bnei Akiva. And he said, okay, you want to establish communities, but the communities have to be based on Jewish lifestyle. We are looking forward to complete redemption. We are blessed with a new generation.
There in Bnei Akiva, Moshe Tzvi Neria met Rachel.
I was a counselor in Tel Aviv and he was in the administration. All our life the partnership was based on common ideals, the ideals of Bnei Akiva. Ideals of building the land and the Jewish state. We believe that this is something that everyone must work for.
After a few years, Rav Neria came to the conclusion that a new yeshiva had to be established. It would be one that will serve as a spiritual fortress and a block against unreligious influences. And so Rav Neria founded the Kfar Ro'eh Yeshiva, the first Bnei Akiva yeshiva, aimed at teaching the delicate fusion between the spiritual world and the material world. Spending time in Kfar Ro'eh on this day, the day of Rav Neria's passing, helped me understand why Rav Neria was called the father of the knitted kippah generation. On my way with his wife to an event that was being held in his memory, I met the local yeshiva students on their way to his gravesite.
The idea is to visit a person who contributed a lot to the Jewish education and the Jewish settlement in the land of Israel. It's important in order to know what Rav Neria was, to learn his heritage, and to try to imitate his way. When you come here, you feel that his spirit is present.
Meanwhile, in the yeshiva sports hall, children from the local school are holding an event in memory of Rav Neria.
Yes, I'm very excited. It's an amazing experience. These kids are a direct continuation of my husband. A few generations later, but a direct connection.
In addition to being an admired Rav, a social activist, and even a member of Knesset for a short time, Rav Neria was also a poet. Rav Neria wrote many of Bnei Akiva's songs. One of them actually became the official Bnei Akiva anthem. From the hall, we continue with Tzila Bar Eli, Rav Neria's daughter, to the local Bnei Akiva branch. The administration of the organization decided to hold a special educational session here to discuss the heritage of Rav Neria. Rav Neria introduced the world of yeshivot to a new model of a Rosh Yeshiva, one who is on the one hand seen as a leader and an educator, but on the other hand, the students see him also as a friend. It is told that Rav Neria used to begin his lessons with a song, and everybody talks about his peaceful smile. That is, after all, one of the reasons that he is called Abba, the father of the knitted kippah generation.
He loved each and every one. He treated everyone seriously. And so, naturally, all people saw themselves as his children. He was considered their counselor. They even called him simply Neria in the beginning. He saw it as a basis for education, the love to the youth, and the love of teaching.
Many ask Rav Neria, who expressed his tremendous love to the land of Israel, what would he say today referring to our situation? A new brochure named The Religious Zionism and the Confusion of Loyalty to the Torah and the State brings Rav Neria's words, which sound very relevant today.
The simplest way is to act like the ultra-Orthodox Neturei Karta group that say that we have nothing in common with the state if the state goes against the existence of the nation. We think otherwise. We think that despite everything, our way was right and we will continue. So how do we deal with the doubts? We must be inspired by the knowledge that God's ways are hidden. The revival of the state clearly was a great act of God.
But the greatest story that expresses best Rav Neria's love to the Torah, the land, and the nation is undoubtedly the story of his departure from this world. Rav Neria, as he was lying on what was to be his deathbed, was learning with his son a section titled The Holiness of the Torah and the Land of Israel. When Rav Neria heard these words of Torah, he was very moved. "I'm cold," he shouted. "Warm me with the words of Torah. Let me grasp onto the land of Israel and its holiness. Let me say goodbye to the land of Israel."
And then his last sentence was, "Let me feel the holiness of the land of Israel. Let me feel the holiness of the nation of Israel. Give me the love of the land of Israel. Have mercy on me."
The festival of Hanukkah is here. The main ritual of Hanukkah is lighting the Hanukkah menorah, the Chanukiah, each night. The tradition calls on lighting the menorah at each and every Jew's home. Now, most of the expelled residents from Gush Katif and the Shomron will have to light this year's Chanukiah in their temporary dwellings. I joined the Atedgi family as they opened their temporary storage container looking for their Chanukiah.
A few days before Hanukkah, Yoel Atedgi and his two twins arrive at the caravan community Nitzan. The Atedgi family will be moving soon to this home, and the container with all their belongings is situated outside their new home. The three have an important mission.
We came here to look for the Hanukkah menorah. Today, at 5 in the evening, they have a Hanukkah party, and they're supposed to bring a Chanukiah or anything that will remind them about Hanukkah. And everything is here inside this mess.
This mess is all of the Atedgi family's property, belongings that were supposed to be in the new home.
All the stuff you see here was supposed to be put into this house, into this cardboard box. But there's no room. I paid for my own money. They took 7,000 shekels off my compensation payments.
Together with Yoel, I meet attorney Adi Meiri. As a representative of the legal forum for the land of Israel, he's here to officially witness the damage.
People were forced to put their belongings into containers like these. The heat causes damage, the rain comes in. In addition to this, when the containers were being moved, furniture was broken, and people had many more expenses like buying new furniture that would fit into their homes.
Meiri also has a message to the other evacuees.
We asked everybody to document everything, take pictures. On the day when the damages will be discussed, the documentation will have great value.
The search for the Chanukiah activity lets the Atedgis forget about their hardships. However, it's obvious that Yoel would rather his kids be involved in other activities.
The children are thinking about home, about the friends, about all the things they had in Gush Katif. They have many questions. They're asking, why are you taking this stuff out? These things should be in Gush Katif. Why did you bring it here?
Luckily, the Chanukiah is found. As the Chanukiah is brought into the house, a broken piece of glass is discovered. Yes, this is only a small piece of glass, but this fracture is symbolic to the fractured lives of the expelled.
If it would have happened only with the Chanukiah, so okay, it happens. It's only 50 or 100 shekels damage. But it's not only the Chanukiah. It's about all the damage that was found in this container.
And now here's a cute clip that's been going around on the internet these days. And now let's learn about the artistic side of the Chanukiot as we visit William Gross's Chanukiah collection.
When entering William Gross's home in North Tel Aviv, you can't miss the fascinating collection of Jewish ritual artistic items, better known as Judaica.
The collection has been built over a period of almost 40 years. I look at the collection as documentation of Jewish life, and each one of these objects which of course you can look at as an art object, for me are historical documents.
As the festival of Hanukkah is coming to an end, I came to William's home to see his unique collection of Chanukiot, Hanukkah menorahs. The Chanukiot in the collection are diverse, and the influences of many cultures can be seen on all of the pieces.
The Chanukiah, other than, let's say, 8 lights and a shamash in most cases, you can see such incredible differences stylistically. But what that shows me, and I think the important lesson that we have to learn from that, is that while these Jews lived everywhere, and they lived among foreign cultures, as it were, nonetheless, the essential basic idea of Judaism remained the same everywhere. And the Chanukiah really represents that because of its many different styles, while it's still being readily identifiable as a Chanukiah.
And now let's take a tour through William Gross's collection.
Hanukkah lamps very often carry architectural motifs, and since architecture is very often a very local phenomenon, you can often identify Chanukiot according to the architectural design which is predominant in that particular object. If you look at this one, you'll see two columns, a very rounded top. You would see exactly the same kind of thing in entranceways, 2-story tall entranceways in Italy. If we take a look at this Hanukkah menorah, the difference between this and the previous one is quite obvious. It's very oriental in its feel. You have arabesque arches, pointed arches. The kind of design and the swirling work is very non-European, and it's Moroccan, and it copies the kind of architecture which you can find in mosques and public buildings and private homes in any city in Morocco. I'm sure that you can all see very easily that this is an unusual Hanukkah menorah, and the fact that it has 2 ranks of lights, something which I'm sure almost nobody has ever seen, and we really don't have many examples of it. And it was an isolated local custom in one community in the area of Alsace in France, on the German border, which, according to tradition, would be used by a father and a son together for the lighting of the candles on Hanukkah. Now we'll travel to Holland, where we can see a Hanukkah menorah. We see the heart motif, which is part of the reflecting back, which was used in many, many different places.
William also explained to me the big difference between Judaica and regular art.
These are not art objects. Today, for better or for worse, because of the way we live in the modern world and the way culture is viewed, these are seen as art objects because most people who are not religious Jews see them in a museum setting. They don't see them in a home setting. Clearly, these were utilitarian objects. They were all made primarily to serve a function. They were made to carry out a mitzvah.
The concept of embellishing utensils used in mitzvot is part of the efforts to perform all of God's precepts and fulfill His will with adornment, hidur mitzvah.
And you will see all different levels. I mean, you will find in a poor community, in a rural area of Bavaria, you may find rimonim which are made of wood, and they're painted. That for them was hidur mitzvah because that's what they could afford. So it's all really relative. The degree of art that's in the object is dependent on the circumstances, the community, the time, the culture, the economics of the time in which it was born.
All this talk about how Jews were influenced by other cultures reminds you of what Hanukkah is all about.
Hanukkah is about the rejection of foreign influences and the reassertion of Jewish life in its true traditional way. And in essence, what we see in these ritual objects is the very obvious influence of foreign cultures on our ritual objects. But I think that there's a wonderful lesson in that, because it shows how these Jews who lived in the diaspora were able to live a quintessentially Jewish life. They were no less religious in the 18th century than Jews are today. And yet they had no problem whatsoever preserving those things that were truly important in Jewish life, while not rejecting those things which in essence are stylistic and outside and don't have an effect on that life.
Be sure to visit the Israeli Salad website. On the Israeli Salad site, scroll through all the editions, see what topics were presented on each program, and simply click on the icon to watch your favorite program. Also, watch all our fantastic music videos featured right here on Israeli Salad. So be sure to click on www.israelnationaltv.com/salad.htm. That's www.israelnationaltv.com/salad.htm.
Okay, that's all for this week. Join us again next week for another edition. Until then, from all of us here at INN TV, Shalom.